Republicans, you can see, are talking a lot about the economy tonight, as both campaigns are trying to draw a contrast between what the economy would look like under Trump, what it looked like under Trump, and what it looks like today under President Biden. According to CBS News' price tracker, since 2019, the cost of a dozen eggs has increased 126%, and a half a gallon of milk is now nearly $4. That is a 30% increase. So there is some sticker shock, but inflation has actually started to come down. To discuss this topic and its impact, let's bring in Nancy Cordes and Major Garrett. Glad to have both of you here. But first, Nancy, let me talk to you first about President Biden today, who gave an interview, talk about the state of his campaign, the new vice presidential pick for Donald Trump. What did he say?
Well, when it comes to JD Vance, Nora, reporters were able to snag him for just a moment before he boarded Air Force One on his way to Las Vegas, Nevada. He said essentially that JD Vance is no different than Donald Trump. He said that they are the same. They are clones of one another, in his words. And so he doesn't see much of a difference, trying to tie them together when it comes to their policies. In that interview that you mentioned that went on for about 20 minutes or so, it was interesting. He was asked about his rhetoric. You know, the president has been saying for several days now, since this assassination attempt, that the U.S. needs to bring down the temperature and that everyone should condemn political violence. And so he was asked about some of his own rhetoric, and in particular, a phrase that he likes to use out on the campaign trail, that Donald Trump is a threat to democracy. He was asked if he thinks that that is appropriate, and he actually argued that he thinks it is. He said, if you think someone is a threat to democracy, what else are you going to say? And he went on to argue that Trump's rhetoric has been far more extreme than his has, and he noted how the former president made fun of Nancy Pelosi and her husband Paul Pelosi when Paul was attacked with a hammer inside their home by a man who reportedly was there to kill Nancy Pelosi, the former speaker.
And Nancy, what is President Biden's campaign saying about how Donald Trump's policies would affect the middle class, the working class?
Well, they're arguing first and foremost that he wants to roll back taxes for the wealthy and for corporations, while President Biden, they insist, is much more focused on the working class, on middle class Americans. And they're making the case that President Biden's policies have been good for the middle class. They point to the fact that wages are going up, that unemployment has been below 4% for the past couple of years, and that inflation has come down from a peak of 9% down to where it currently stands at about 3%. The problem is, Nora, that as you pointed out, that sticker shock exists because even though inflation is down, Americans have seen their prices go up for everyday goods by about 20% since the pandemic, since President Biden took office. It's the same around the world, but it's cold comfort to people here who are paying more for just about everything. And that is the big challenge for the Biden campaign. How do they convince Americans that they're better off than they would have been under someone else when people are still paying so much more for the things they need to buy every day?
And Nancy, I do want to ask you about your questions to the head of the Department of Homeland Security today. You asked about the Secret Service and whether it's spread too thin. How did he respond?
Nora, he said that the Secret Service works with other partners, state partners, local law enforcement, to ensure that they have the resources that they need. But at the same time, the Department of Homeland Security Secretary said that he was going to be speaking to Congress about the necessary resources. So that seemed to be an indication that he believed that he could have more when it comes to the Secret Service than he has right now.